All right, let's dive into this time management thing. Looks like we've got a pretty good mix of stuff here. Practical tips, some deep dive strategies, even a bit of psychology sprinkled in. Oh, and there's that one from the University of Georgia Extension. They talk about digital well-being and family stuff, too.
Yeah, it's amazing how much time management impacts, well, everything.
I know, right? It's like everywhere you turn. One quote really jumped out at me. It's from Effective Time Management. They said, "Time management is one of the most valuable skills that determines success in every aspect of life." Kind of makes you think, huh?
It does. It's like this underlying key to, I don't know, a less stressful life. We all want to reach our goals, right?
Sure.
And the thing about time is, well, it's the one thing you can't make more of. Unlike money or resources, once it's gone, it's gone.
So true, which is probably why I get so tripped up by procrastination. Anyone else? Just me.
Oh, you're definitely not alone there.
Yeah.
Procrastination is way more common than people think.
It's a sneaky beast.
The book Mastering Time actually talks about that. It says procrastination isn't just laziness,
Yeah.
It's often tied to fear, like fear of failing, or even that like perfectionism thing where you're scared to start unless it's going to be perfect.
Wow, that's like deep. I never thought of it that way.
It's true though.
So, okay, if it's not just laziness, how do we, I don't know, tackle it then?
Well, there's this interesting tip from that UGA Extension article.
Okay, lay it on me.
It says, eat the big frog first.
Hold on, eat the frog. What are we talking about here?
It's a metaphor.
Okay, good, because I was about to get worried.
So the big frog is basically that task you're dreading the most, the one you keep pushing to the bottom of the list.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
The idea is you do that first. First thing in the morning, tackle that frog.
Get it over with.
Exactly. Then the rest of your day feels so much easier.
Like a weight off your shoulders. Okay, I like it. Eat the frog. Got it. But even if I manage to swallow that frog, there's still like a ton of stuff to do. How do you even decide what to do first?
Prioritization, my friend.
Easy for you to say.
Well, there's actually a tool for that.
Hit me.
It's called the Eisenhower Matrix.
Okay, never heard of it.
It's basically a way to categorize your tasks.
Categorize.
Yeah, based on how urgent and important they are.
So it's like more than just a to-do list then.
Way more.
All right, tell me more. How does it work?
So picture a grid. 4 quadrants. You've got things that are urgent, AD, important.
This sounds stressful.
Then there are things that are important but not urgent.
Okay, a little less stress there.
Then you've got urgent but not important.
Interesting.
And finally, the things that are neither urgent nor important.
Oh, those are my favorite.
So you put your tasks into these different boxes, right? And that helps you see what needs your attention right now.
Makes sense.
And what you can maybe schedule for later. Or delegate.
Or just ignore completely.
Well, sometimes.
So this Eisenhower Matrix thing, does it have anything to do with those SMART goals I keep hearing about?
Oh, absolutely. They go hand in hand.
Okay, good, because I was getting lost with all the acronyms.
So think of it this way. The matrix helps you figure out how to manage your tasks.
Okay, I'm following.
But those SMART goals, they help you figure out which tasks actually matter.
Ah, so it's like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. Remember what SMART stands for?
Something specific, right?
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Right.
So you got to make sure those tasks you're prioritizing actually line up with your goals.
And those goals should be, well, SMART.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the Eisenhower Matrix for organizing and SMART goals for direction. What else?
Well, now it's time to get into the nitty-gritty of actually managing your time.
Like the actual doing stuff part.
You got it. And there are some really cool techniques out there.
Tell me everything.
One popular one is the Pomodoro technique.
The what? Pomodoro?
Yeah. It's named after those tomato-shaped kitchen timers.
Oh, right.
So basically, you work in focus bursts, usually like 25 minutes. Then you take a short break.
Sounds like something I could actually do.
It's a great way to stay on track and avoid burnout.
Because sometimes I just sit down and then, like, 5 hours disappear.
I hear you.
Any other cool techniques?
Oh, yeah, tons. Mastering Time talks a lot about time blocking.
Time blocking. Sounds intense.
It's actually pretty simple. You literally block out time in your schedule for specific activities.
So like from 10 to 11 a.m., I'm working on that presentation.
Yep, it helps you create structure and minimize distractions.
I can see how that would be helpful. Sometimes I get so distracted.
And then there's the 80-20 rule.
Okay, now you're just throwing numbers at me.
It's also called the Pareto principle.
But
80-20 is easier to remember.
Definitely.
The idea is that, like, 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts.
So I should just focus on that 20%.
Well, kind of. It's about figuring out which tasks have the biggest impact.
And prioritizing those.
Exactly. Work smarter, not harder.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about tackling individual tasks. But what about managing, like, life in general? The whole shebang.
Right. It's not just about checking things off a list. It's about creating a life you actually enjoy.
Preach.
And that UGA extension source had some great tips for that.
Okay, tell me.
They talk a lot about family obligations.
Yes, the never-ending to-do list of family life.
They suggest using shared calendars, for example.
Keep everyone on the same page.
Exactly. And creating a central communication hub.
Like a family command center.
Exactly.
I like it. But one thing that always throws a wrench in my plans is technology. It's a love-hate relationship.
I think we can all relate to that.
My phone is like my lifeline, but it's also a huge distraction.
The UGA extension source actually talks a lot about digital well-being.
Okay, yeah, I've been hearing more about that lately.
They say it's crucial for overall well-being. And they even cite a Google study that found a direct link.
Wow, interesting. So how do we, manage that then?
Well, there are a bunch of practical tips.
Give me the good stuff.
Setting screen time limits, turning off notifications, even switching your phone to grayscale mode.
Grayscale, what does that do?
It makes it less appealing, less colorful, less stimulating.
I might have to try that.
It's all about being intentional, right? Instead of just letting tech control us.
Taking back control. I like it. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already, but I feel like we're just getting started. There's always more to learn about time management, really.
You're telling me. It's like an endless rabbit hole.
Speaking of rabbit holes, one of our sources, the Corporate Finance Institute, they had some great stuff.
Oh yeah, CFI. They always have good insights.
They really emphasize SMART goals again. Specific, measurable, achievable, all that good stuff.
Yeah, they're big on having those clear goals. They say it's like the foundation for everything else.
Makes sense, right.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're going, how do you know how to get there?
Exactly. You need that roadmap.
So, SMART goals, check. What else do they have to say?
They also talked about setting time limits for tasks, even the small ones.
Oh, interesting.
The idea is it creates a sense of urgency.
Like a little deadline pressure.
Yeah. And that can help you avoid procrastination.
Because sometimes I just sit there staring at a task, feeling overwhelmed.
I know that feeling.
A time limit might help with that. Like, okay, I've got 1 hour to get this done, no messing around.
Exactly. It's like a little challenge.
I like a good challenge. What else?
They also talked about the importance of breaks.
Breaks. We already talked about those, didn't we?
We did, but they had a slightly different take on it.
Okay, I'm listening.
They said you should use breaks to actually clear your head. Like really refresh yourself. Not just scroll through social media.
Ouch, that hits close to home.
They even suggested things like quick power naps.
Now you're talking my language.
Or short walks, a few minutes of meditation.
Okay, I can get behind all of that. But honestly, sometimes it's hard to tear myself away, especially when I'm in the zone. But I know I should.
It's all about balance.
But
Finding that sweet spot.
They also talked about planning ahead.
Planning. I'm not a huge planner.
Well, they suggested starting each day with a clear idea of what needs to get done.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes I waste so much time in the mornings just figuring out what to do.
Right, you need that roadmap for the day.
They even suggested making a to-do list for the next day at the end of your workday.
That way, you're already one step ahead.
I've tried that before, and it did help. Maybe I could start doing that again.
It's worth a try.
And speaking of planning, the Udemy blog talked about the power of creating a schedule, like a real schedule.
Yeah, they're big on structure.
I like structure, in theory, but I also like flexibility.
It's about finding that balance again, right?
Always the balance.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How do you stick to a schedule without feeling, I don't know, trapped? I think the key is to not be too rigid. Think of your schedule as a guide, not a set of rules.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, it's okay to deviate if something comes up,
Exactly.
as long as you're still moving towards your goals.
Right.
So we've got planning and scheduling. What about the things we should stop doing? The time wasters.
Ah, yes, the enemy of productivity.
Spill the tea.
Well, the UGA extension source actually had a whole section on that.
Oh, I bet I know what they're going to say.
First up, technology.
I knew it. My phone is such a time suck.
But it's not all bad, right?
True. It's also super helpful.
The key is using it to our advantage, not letting it control us.
Easier said than done.
They had some good tips, though, like using voice-to-text features to speed things up,
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
keeping phone calls short and sweet,
No more rambling on and on.
and, this is a big one, setting screen time limits.
Ugh, Fine, I'll do it.
And actually monitoring your digital well-being.
Like checking in with yourself.
Yeah, making sure you're not spending too much time in the digital world.
Because it's easy to get sucked in and then suddenly, like, 3 hours have disappeared.
It's a black hole, I tell you.
Okay, so technology, check. What other time wasters should we be on the lookout for?
Unexpected visitors.
Oh, you mean those people who just pop by your desk?
Or send you a message on Slack with a quick question.
That turns into a 30-minute conversation.
Exactly.
It's hard to say no sometimes.
I know, you want to be helpful.
But those interruptions can really throw off your groove.
The UGA extension source had some good advice for that, like setting boundaries, letting people know when you're not available.
Being assertive, basically.
Yeah.
Which can be hard for some people, but it's important, right?
Absolutely. It's your time. You get to decide how you spend it.
I'm getting better at that. Slowly but surely.
And they had a funny little tip for when people do drop by unexpectedly.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Have the conversation standing up.
Standing up. Really?
Yeah. It subtly signals that you don't have a ton of time.
Oh, sneaky. I like
It can help keep things brief.
I'm definitely going to try that. What about meetings? Those can be huge time wasters.
Oh, don't even get me started on meetings.
We've all been there, right? Stuck in a meeting that feels like it's going nowhere.
The UGA extension source had some good tips for making meetings more efficient.
Okay, lay on me.
Know the purpose of the meeting in advance. Arrive on time. Have a clear agenda. Stick to the agenda.
All the things we know we should do, but often don't.
Exactly.
And maybe just don't schedule meetings unless they're absolutely necessary.
That's a good one.
Sometimes an email or a phone call is all you need.
Right.
Okay, what about family stuff? That can really throw a wrench in my schedule.
They talked about that too. Shared calendars are key, they said.
Again, keeping everyone in the loop.
Right. And having a central communication hub.
Like that family command center we talked about.
Exactly.
Okay, so communication is key. What about multitasking? I feel like I'm always doing a million things at once.
The myth of multitasking.
Is it a myth?
Pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, we think we're being productive, but we're actually not.
So all those times I'm like, look at me, I'm multitasking like a pro. I'm actually just messing myself up.
It's more like task switching. And every time you switch, you lose a little bit of focus.
Interesting.
The UGA extension source said multitasking can lead to errors and difficulty concentrating.
So it's better to just focus on one thing at a time.
Yes, give it your full attention.
Okay, I can try that. But it's hard to break old habits.
Takes practice.
Speaking of things that are hard, self-care. I know it's important, but sometimes it feels impossible.
I hear you. It's like one more thing on the to-do list.
Right, and it often gets pushed to the bottom.
But it's so crucial.
I know.
The UGA extension source talked about scheduling time for relaxation.
Relaxation, what's that?
Things that rejuvenate you. Exercise, spending time in nature, reading.
Oh, right, those things.
It's about taking care of yourself.
So you can be more productive in the long run. Okay, that makes sense. But sometimes I just feel too busy.
I get it. We all feel that way sometimes.
Maybe I need to reframe my thinking.
Maybe.
Like self-care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity.
Exactly. It's an investment in yourself.
Okay, so we've talked about tools and techniques and to-do lists and all that good stuff.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But now I'm curious about, like, the mental game of time management.
The psychology behind it all?
Yeah, exactly. What do our sources say about that?
Well, Mastering Time had some interesting thoughts on that.
Okay, I'm all ears.
They talked about being proactive.
Proactive. Instead of what?
Instead of reactive. It's about consciously choosing how you spend your time, you know?
So not just reacting to whatever comes up.
Right. It's about being in control.
I like that. Being in control. But sometimes it's hard when I feel so overwhelmed. Like, where do I even start?
That's where that growth mindset comes in.
Ah, yes, the growth mindset. We talked about that earlier.
Remember, it's about seeing challenges as opportunities.
So not freaking out when my to-do list is a mile long.
Exactly. It's about focusing on the progress you're making.
Okay, I can try that. But how do I actually shift my mindset? Like, what are the steps?
Well, first, you got to become aware of your own thinking patterns.
You mean like those negative thoughts that pop up?
Yeah, like, I'm terrible at time management, or I'll never get it all done.
Oh, I know those thoughts all too well.
Those thoughts can be really limiting.
So how do I get rid of them?
One technique is cognitive reframing.
Cognitive reframing. Sounds fancy.
It's actually pretty simple. It's about choosing to look at things from a different perspective.
So like instead of saying, I'm so overwhelmed, I could say, this is a lot, but I can handle it.
Exactly.
Turning those negative thoughts into positive ones. I can do that. But what about motivation? How do I stay motivated, especially when I have to do those tasks I really don't want to do?
The motivation struggle. We've all been there.
For sure.
The key is connecting with your values and goals.
Okay, how do I do that?
Ask yourself why it's important to manage your time effectively. What are you hoping to achieve?
That's a good question. I guess for me, it's about having a life that feels balanced. Time for work, time for family and friends, time for myself.
That's a great goal.
Yeah.
And when you connect with that deeper why, it's easier to stay motivated even when things get tough.
It's like remembering the bigger picture.
Exactly. And don't forget to celebrate your wins along the way.
Oh, yes. Celebrating is important.
When you achieve something, no matter how small, take a moment to acknowledge it.
Give yourself a pat on the back.
Exactly. It reinforces those positive feelings.
So to recap, the psychology of time management is all about being proactive, having a growth mindset, reframing those negative thoughts, and celebrating our wins.
You got it. And remember, time management is a journey. It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress.
This has been such a helpful deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with me. And to our listener, we hope you've enjoyed this exploration of time management as much as we have. Remember, you have the power to take control of your time and create a life that truly aligns with your values and goals. Thanks for joining us.